Good evening. I have to say thank you for such a moving introduction. And the real reason why I said yes when she asked me, I was so impressed. I said, this woman has guts. I like her. But first and foremost, I have to say that it's a real honor to be here today with Karen Korematsu. And you may wonder, what is it that we have in common? You've heard some things. I mean, after all, I'm an African-American woman, Japanese-American. I mean, what else could we possibly have in common? Well, what a lot of people don't know is my mother was one of the leaders in Japantown in San Francisco. And she was one of the civil rights activists in a group in San Francisco called CANE, Citizens Against Nihonmachi Eviction. And I grew up in Japantown. And what's very interesting about the Japanese community and the African American community in San Francisco is they live side by side. So when many of the families in Japantown were ordered into internment camps, it was the African American families that held their homes until they returned. Now, Karen's father was also a civil rights activist. I mean, when he was mandated by the executive order to go into the internment camp, he refused and he fought it. So if you ask what we really have in common, we have a passion for civil rights and a commitment to relieve the suffering that has been passed down to us by our parents. And I say that first and foremost because I want to share with you just 3 little tidbits of wisdom that I have picked up after over 35 years of practicing law. First and foremost, be true to your passions. Now, you've heard a lot about networking. And people say, you've got the huge network. I mean, you actually, my firm, they say you have 10,000 contacts in, your Microsoft contacts. We've had to build a special computer system just to hold the people that you know. But what those contacts have represented is my passions and my commitment to relieve the suffering. Because if it's one thing that I have found at the end of the day, and that you will find at the end of your careers and the end of your life, it will not be your billable hours that will make you happy. It will not be that big case that you've won. It will be, what have you done to help somebody else? You want to be able to look in the mirror and say, job well done. The second point I'd like to point out is perseverance. And what is perseverance? Perseverance is having the determination never to give up under any circumstance. And I know that there are many of you right now that are probably handling assignments in which you're buried in paper and you really want to be in that courtroom litigating the big case. Others are bored to death. In fact, you're probably handling some issues in which you think your brain will turn to jelly. In some other cases, you may be handling some complex matters in which you feel like, I'm not ready for this. I just want to give up. A sword is useless in the hands of a coward. A sword is useless in the hands of a coward. And what that really means is, right now, at this time in your life, is when you are sharpening that sword. and you're learning over and beyond the skills, you're learning perseverance. And if one person was to ask me, what has been the one thing that has really made me so successful in my career, it's no matter what, I refuse to give up. When I was a pioneer in law enforcement, and this was at a time when San Francisco was under a consent decree because women were not allowed to be in patrol cars. Many women weren't even allowed to try major cases. And though I suffered one discrimination after the other, the thing that kept me going was I refused to give up. And when I was at the state level, at a time when we had 9/11, and I found myself as chair of the Victims' Compensation Board, in which there was a little known, unknown statute that it was my responsibility for victims and survivors of terrorism, that I was in charge of all these families whose loved ones were killed on the planes, or who individuals who made it out of the World Trade Center, and there was no pattern. That even when there was overwhelming grief and there was intense anger, that no matter what, I didn't give up. I just put one foot in front of the other and I kept going. And when we hit the energy crisis, and I didn't even know what a rolling blackout was, and I had a very, very steep learning curve, I just didn't give up in order to keep the lights on. And even after 35 years, right now, as I'm trying to crack that corporate ceiling in the private sector, and no matter what is thrown at me every single day, and I sometimes even now go home and I cry in my pillow, the one thing, my one motto, nothing else resonates, don't give up. And the last piece of information that I wanted to pass on is how important it is to balance your life. You can do it all. You just can't do it at the same time. And there will be some of you who are going to have a family and young children. Don't worry. Spend time with your family. Spend time with your loved ones. There will be times when some of you will have to care for people in your family that are critically ill, or friends that are going through the same circumstances. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends. I have to say Saturday night, which I share with all of you, and if you want to see pictures afterwards, I'll be happy to show it to you. I became a grandmother. Now, the fact that my son is an attorney, I could care less. I am a grandmother. And there is so much joy in that. And I intend to enjoy every single minute of it. And the one thing that took me a long time to learn, because I was so driven, and I was a pioneer, and I felt that I had to do it all at the same time, was I got really out of balance. Balance with my health. So it's really important that you take care of your health, that you eat properly, that you're conscious of what you eat, and that you get enough sleep. And pay attention carefully to your body. You may say, well, Chloe, that's kind of contradictory with perseverance, working at 10 to 14 hours a day. But life is long, and there will be those 10 to 14 hours a day. But they don't have to be every day for the rest of your life. So you have to incorporate all of this into your life, because it doesn't matter if you're not happy. Success means happiness. So the last thing I would like to leave everyone with is life is long, live it to the fullest, and enjoy practice of law.
Thank you.